show have for the last couple of weeks has included people who have investigated paranormal haunting. So I think what I'm going to be talking about tonight will tie in with that nicely. I was thinking that since Jack is on vacation, it got me thinking about where people happen to go for their vacations. And I thought it would be interesting tonight to talk about some of the haunting vacation spots that I have visited. And as I said, I welcome any phone calls and invite everyone out there to share any spooky experiences they might have had. Considering the economy, I thought many of us are planning vacations that we can reach by car. So I've sort of thought about this and decided to limit this to what I call my East Coast ghosts. Now, before my novel Salem Pact was published, I had visited Salem, Massachusetts hundreds of times. I also had relatives there, so it made it quite convenient. And Salem, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is very much a city haunted by its past and actually suffers the repercussions from those tragedies. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the story, and it's about 1692, 19 men and women were killed as witches. And one of those was a wealthy landowner named Giles Corey, who was actually, unlike the others who were hung, he was pressed to death with stones. Now, while many tourists hope to catch a glimpse of some of these ethereal creatures, this is one spirit that the locals do not want to see, and that is, again, the ghost of Giles Corey. He was told when he was asked to confess that he, like his wife, was a witch, and he said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm innocent. More stones." And he kept saying this. Well, over the course of 3 days, the stones finally got to him, and he died. But not before he cursed the High Sheriff Corwin and the town of Salem. Now, again, this was back in 1692, but the curse seems to still be in existence. The people of Salem believe that he continues to exact revenge because at that time in 1692, the sheriff died at the age of 30 of a massive heart attack. And every single person who has held that office of sheriff since has died in office of a heart attack or blood disease. So now, over the last 10 years, not surprising, the position remains unfilled. I certainly wouldn't apply for it, that's for sure.
That's some scary stuff.
I know, and it gets even a little bit more spooky because the legend has it that 24 hours before any of the great disasters that have been inflicted upon the town of Salem, that very reputable people, such as the mayor, doctors, attorneys, professional people who have lots of credibility, will report seeing Corey's spirit floating in and out of his tombstone. Now, this first happened in the 1880s. Now, remember, the other event occurred in 1692, so now we're back down to 1880, when a hurricane swept through the city, right after they had seen the ghost of Giles Corey. Then again in 1914, the mayor saw the spirit, and the next day was the Great Fire of 1914, which began in a leather factory in the historic district of Gallows Hill, where the witches were hung. And it destroyed 256 acres of property, yet the historic district where the witches were hung did not suffer anything. And then finally, in 1999, one of the cemetery guides who conducts tours reported that a tourist group, so this was not just one individual, but many people, saw the ghost of Giles Corey, and the day after, a local high school student committed suicide. So, I don't know if anyone else has a similar story or experience, but would certainly like to hear it.
And around the Massachusetts area, there's lots of great hauntings. Of course, Lizzie Borden, too.
Right. That's correct. In fact, there's another story which occurs at the Wayside Inn in Sudbury, Massachusetts, which is, I guess, about a good hour outside of Boston. And if you go and you want to do some ghost hunting of your own, you might want to make a reservation for room number 9, because it's allegedly haunted by a young woman, the spirit of Jerusha Howe. Now, this house, which is now a tavern and an inn and sort of a museum, was built in 1707 and started out as a two-room home built by David Howe. Over the years, it was added on to over and over and eventually became known as the Red Horse. Well, the additions kept continuing, and in the family tradition, the inn was passed down to different people. And eventually, there was a young woman, as I said, named Jerusha Howe. She was the sister of one of the family members. And her story is a familiar one. She fell in love with a soldier who promised to return and never did. So she died of a broken heart, and it's believed she haunts the premises in room 9. But the interesting part here is that anyone who spends the night there is invited to join the Secret Drawer Society. And what this is there is a small box, looks like a drawer, and by entering a letter, if you stay there and you experience some of these phenomena that I'll tell you about, you can write this down and put it inside of this little drawer, and that experience becomes part of the Secret Drawer Society, and only people who have witnessed or sensed her presence are supposed to fill this out. And over the years, this has been going on since 1900, there have been really thousands of letters and notes of people who have experienced things. And the funny thing about this is she particularly favors the males who stay in the room. You can sense citrus-scented perfume in various parts of the house, particularly in that room. And some of the visitors have claimed they awake in the middle of the night to find her sitting on the side of the bed. But I think the really interesting part is that a few of the male patrons there have claimed that she gently caresses their skin and hops into bed with them. So I'm not quite sure what kind of experience that would be, but certainly is interesting. And even when the hotel is empty of visitors, they can hear, the staff will hear the piano piece called the Copenhagen Waltz is played on the piano which she used to play, and they wonder if she's missing people and playing for more attention. So, have you ever stayed in a place like that?
No, I have not. A couple of my friends have stayed in various places like that. And it's kind of interesting. Stephen King made a movie called Room 1208 recently, based on a room in a certain hotel that was haunted.
Right. Well, he did that also. That was kind of the subject of his book, and later, which was made into a film with Jack Nicholson, was The Shining, where he depicts the Stanley Hotel out in Colorado.
Right.
Which reportedly also has lots of hauntings and unexplained events. So I think it's interesting, and more people. I have looked on the internet a while back because I thought I was going to be in the area, and I thought, wouldn't this be appropriate as a horror novelist to stay in such a place? And gee, first of all, it was outrageously expensive, and secondly, it was booked up for 2 years in advance. So I think there's a lot of people out there who find a ghost haunting a particularly interesting experience to have.
That movie still scares me to this day.
Oh, I know, doesn't it? It was wonderfully done. Very
right.
well done. They remade it, I know, later on with another cast, but I don't think it was quite as effective as with Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall.
No, and those two twin girls in the movie just scare the living daylights out of me.
I know, that's true. I know I said I was going to keep this to East Coast ghosts, but you were reminding me, I guess it was about 5 years ago, I was an editor and travel editor for a major daily newspaper in New Jersey, and I was over in Scotland and had the opportunity to spend 2 nights in a haunted castle in a place called Borthwick Castle. And there were only like 11 rooms open, and at night, after they had, of course, told us appropriately scary stories, the caretakers left the premises, and we were in the castle alone with each other, with these other guests. And we were the only Americans. There were a lot of Scottish people there who were visiting, um, just visiting the site to see if it was haunted. And the story was quite interesting. It was about a knight who had left Rosalind Chapel because he was suspected of thievery, came to work there for the lord of the castle, Lord Borthwick. And this particular castle was where Mary Queen of Scots received her execution edict, and she was removed from there and executed. Her presence could possibly be there too, although she did not die there. But anyway, the story goes that the master of the house had evidently impregnated one of the young servants, and it would not do for her to deliver the child with his wife and all the other ladies in waiting. So he gave his knights the order to kill them, kill her. So they go upstairs in the night, and she was very pregnant, and they stabbed her in the stomach where the baby was, and she died. And the room that she was in was known as the Red Room. And, of course, one of the Scottish couples we were with were staying in the Red Room. So, of course, we all went up there to check out the room. And it had a very plain alabaster type of fireplace. And you could see the image of a woman laying down with a large stomach and a huge sword sticking out of it. Well, we were surprised since this happened hundreds of years ago why this would still be there. And legend has it that her spirit had been seen floating around, and that this image manifested itself on this fireplace wall after she died. And the Lord Master of the castle had the alchemist in to use chemicals, to try to use abrasives, to scour it off, to scrub it off, to paint it off. And the more they did to it, the stronger the image became. And finally they locked that part of the castle off to visitors. And it's only since this has become a hotel, that they've reopened the Red Room and they have guests staying there. So very interesting. And of course the people who had that room did not go to sleep all night. So
I don't know if I could ever bring myself to stay in a room that has that sort of history.
I know. We were in the tower room, and we were there in October, and all I heard was the wind whistling through, and I thought, oh boy, this is ghosts. So I really didn't sleep very much that night, and I wasn't even in the Red Room.
Right.
So, but it was a unique experience.
Now, we're talking about like hauntings on the East Coast. Of course, there's the house in Amityville, New York. I don't know if that's open to the public for tours.
I don't believe it is. I think another family has moved in there, and it's not.
Right. And I heard at one point that a lot of people claim that story was false, that family had fabricated all of the hauntings. And
right. I had heard that, too.
Right. And then in Connecticut, there's the house where they based the haunting in Connecticut, and I don't know if that's open to the public for tours or...
Probably. I don't think that is yet.
No.
But there is another interesting place down in Virginia, in Williamsburg, and they have a candlelight, ghost by candlelight tour every night down there, and that's quite interesting. And it deals with the Peyton Randolph house. And people have reported seeing a man dressed in colonial clothing seated on a sofa inside the house as they go through the tour. And one woman who was there thought this was a docent, dressed up in the period costume to tell the history. She went up to him and started to talk with him, and he vanished. And he is not the only spirit that wanders that house. It was built in 1715, and that was the home of the first Continental Congress president. And people over the years who have stayed there have reported seeing women who wring their hands and moan at the end of the bed, and visions of a teenage girl and a man who supposedly committed suicide. And then there's a story of a young boy, which dates back to 1705. He was 9 years old. His name was Matthew Whaley, and he mysteriously died in that house. And no one to this day is quite sure how he died, whether he had pneumonia, whether it was a horse accident, no one knows. But his specter and footsteps continually leave there and head to the local elementary school. So I guess ghosts know boundaries when it comes to spooking even children.
Yeah. I'd hate to have like the type of ghost experience and stuff where you get physically abused by the ghost.
Right, slapped around. I believe that's really more what they call a poltergeist.
A poltergeist?
Yeah, they're the ones who actually can manifest not only their vision or their sounds, but they can employ force to shove you off of a chair or, hit you in the ribs or something like that. Now that I haven't encountered, I'm very happy to say.
Right.
But that's been interesting too.
Here locally in Fayette County, there's also the Albert Gallatin estate, and there have been reports that you could see Albert Gallatin's wife's spirit walking the grounds at night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Have you seen that, or?
No, I haven't. I've been to the Albert Gallatin estate during the day, but I haven't seen any ghosts.
Right. Well, they also say one of the interesting places, I know we said we'd talk about East Coast ghosts, but this just brought to mind one of my travels when I was in Jamaica, in Montego Bay, Jamaica, which is a beautiful island. There's a plantation there. They had rum plantations and sugar plantations, and it was named Rose Hall. And they say there's a witch who has become a ghost, the ghost of Annie Palmer. They call the White Witch of Jamaica. And there are 3 palm trees that significantly stand up on the rise in front of this estate. And supposedly she murdered each of her 3 husbands and then planted the palm trees on them because she was very much into the island voodoo. So I think that's another whole area that's one area I really don't like to discuss is voodoo. I'm very kind of superstitious about that myself.
Well, in the New Orleans area, there's a lot of that, and of course, a lot of plantations in New Orleans and stuff. Old plantations are haunted.
Right. That's very true. Yes.
And I think I'd be afraid to go to some of those.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to encounter someone who practices voodoo because, interestingly enough, if you look at it from a very rational standpoint, people who talk about voodoo, it's really based on a psychological belief. I mean, if you believe in it, if you think, well, this person says my arm is going to hurt, it may really start hurting because you believe it. So it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. In that sense, it's a little spooky because can someone actually get in your mind and affect you in that way? I mean, your arm may not have hurt before, but if you believe that it's going to, it's sort of like, those placebos that they give you if some people are taking a test, and they'll give some people the real thing and some people the sugar pills, and then the people who are on the sugar pills will say, oh, I feel so much better.
Right.
Because there's that possibility that they're on the real medication and they want to believe, and it's that old saying, mind over matter.
Right. Well, it appears we have to step aside for our first break.
All righty. We'll be back soon.
Has rapidly evolved into an institution with an expanded campus atmosphere. Douglas offers many disciplines of study, which include business, medical, art, and cosmetology programs. Whether you are a painter, sculptor, computer artist, or just like to draw, at Douglas you can refine your skills to realize your dream. The art programs, which cover a wide spectrum in the art field, have been designed and created by leaders of their respective fields. These programs include Tom Savini's Special Makeup Effects Program, Graphic Design and Web, and Allen & Wilson's Illustration and Airbrush Program. Dare to Express, the Cosmetology Academy at Douglas, offers exciting specialized career training in cosmetology using the world-leading Pivot Point education system. Lifetime placement assistance is available for all graduates. Graduates are being placed throughout southwestern Pennsylvania and across the United States. Financial aid is available for those who qualify. For more information, please call 1-800-413-6013 or online at www.douglas-school.com.
Hi, I'm Rudy Giuliani. I'd like to invite you to join me at the Get Motivated Business Seminar on Tuesday, August 11th for a day you will never forget. I'll be speaking live and in person, along with my good friend, America's #1 motivator, Zig Ziglar, top sales expert and author of Get Motivated, Tamara Lowe, legendary soldier statesman, General Colin Powell, and NFL Hall of Fame quarterback, Terry Bradshaw, plus America's #1 health and fitness expert, Dr. Earl Mindell. You'll learn leadership strategies, business skills, time management, communication skills, and much, much more. That's Tuesday, August 11th at the Mellon Arena. And it's only $19 for you and your whole office to attend if you call now. Not per person, but $19 for everyone.
Call 1-800-217-1311 now and reserve your seats. See all these great speakers in person, plus Steelers safety Troy Polamalu, and receive Zig Ziglar's top-rated DVD. Call 800-217-1311. 800-217-1311.
I'll be there. I want to see you there too.
Experience the thrilling new Mega Vortex as it sends you spinning 50 feet into the air. Then climb aboard the award-winning Ravine Flyer 2 coaster. Plus, there's loads of other amazing rides, water slides, and attractions. Waterworld opens Tuesday through Sunday at 11 a.m., Waldameer at 1, with free parking and free admission to the amusement park.
The Ravine Flyer at Waldameer. You're gonna love it here. Come on out and play in Erie, PA.
You and me, summer makes three.
The Kennywood Coasters. When I was a little kid, I started with the Jackrabbit. I graduated to the Racer. Now I take my family on the Thunderbolt, Phantom's Revenge, all of them. They're my graduate degree in coasterology.
Near Pittsburgh. See Kennywood.com for directions.
Kennywood, make a new memory.
DaVita Dialysis in Waynesburg says kidney failure can result from water waste and toxic buildup. Kidney disease can affect 1 in 6 people, usually result from diabetes and high blood pressure. 67,000 people don't survive. 400,000 receive dialysis and transplants. Lab tests and professional care is vital. This message is courtesy of DaVita Dialysis, 248 Elm Drive in Waynesburg, where dedicated skill is a commitment to caring. Visit DaVita.com or call 724-627-3997.
And we are back here on the Jack Evans Show with Carlotta Holton.
Hi, I'm hoping everyone's enjoying some of these stories and experiences, and would certainly love to hear your ideas and your experiences with the supernatural. And you can call us at 724-438-4593 or the toll-free number at 1-866-590-9627. During the break, I was just thinking about an experience that my grandfather used to tell me, and this actually took place in Pennsylvania. And he had told us a story. My grandfather was a coal miner for part of his young life, and he would work in the coal mines, and he would work for the company town. He lived there, and they would give him just so much money to live on. And he would be, my grandfather would be now probably in his upper 90s, so this was a while back, but when he was 17, he was earning like $1.50 an hour, and that time that was pretty good money. And he and a lot of other miners would do that until they could save enough to be able to work above ground. But miners were very superstitious people. And whenever there was a cave-in or a flood, like the Great Flood in Tamaqua years and years ago, there would always be miners who died, who perished in these situations. And frequently they would appear to any other miners who were in danger. And I know Jack was quite interested in that when I had discussed that with him. And it was really, kind of spooky. My grandfather used to say that he would see certain miners and, would be momentarily terrified, and he just wanted to get out to survive and was hoping that that was not an omen of his fate. And, of course, it turned out that he was okay, but still kind of a chilling experience for anyone to have. It's interesting that some of us who are in such situations want to avoid it, and yet others, a lot of people in the general public, seem to want to encourage those kind of experiences. So, no telling, I guess, counts for a lot of differences in people. Again, the number, if you'd like to call in and share your ideas, would be 724-438-4593. And the toll-free number is 1-866-590-9627. Back I happen to live in New Jersey, and there's a lot of stories about the ghostly woman in white who is down the shore and was jilted by a lover and still waits for him to come back. And if you're driving down the shore area and you happen to see a woman in white, it's advisable not to pick her up because she is this ghostly woman in white, and people who have report sitting on the car seat, and the car seat gets wet because she's all drenched from the rain, and when they stop to let her out, she just vanishes and disappears. So another one of the local areas that are haunted by these spirits who are not at rest. I also find it quite interesting that the public is so attracted to the Ghost Hunter series that now has gone actually international. And lots of technology out there. When I spoke earlier on this hour about the Salem, Massachusetts ghost, I had met a woman who used to take tours through the ghost yards, and she would have electronic equipment, and they would have these photographs that you could take of these alleged spirits, and you would get these white orbs that would pop out all over the photographs that they take. And she's also recorded electronic voice prints where you can hear moans. I think we might have a call. Do we have a call?
No, we do not.
Oh, okay. That was just okay.
Are you hearing a beeping sound?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's not me.
All right.
Maybe there's a ghost in the phone.
Well, that could be, because one time when I was speaking with Jack on the phone during an interview, there was a woman who called up about a howling dog, if we knew anything about a howling dog. So I don't know. That's been kind of a joke, so now I've got ghosts calling too.
Okay.
But have you ever seen anything like that or heard anything? What are your is your take on the ghost hunters?
It looks like we have a call come in. Hang on just 1 second.
Alrighty.
Okay, Carlotta and caller, do I have you both?
Yes.
Hello, caller.
Hello. I'm calling. I just started listening to your show there, and I had experience with orbs.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You had experience with orbs. Okay.
Yeah. They came. It was after we had a really unusual experience here. They came right around Christmas. This is like 2 months after this experience, and they would be outside. And when I say pictures, they showed up in the pictures, and one orb in the front of our home was like hiding. And then there was other orbs up over our home and in front of our home. And then I took a picture of my husband and our kitten in front of the Christmas tree, and there was an orb behind them.
Really?
And then around Easter, I had the dogs out and everything, and the orbs, I take pictures, the orbs went around the one dog, they go around the other dog, but they won't go around me or our Airedale.
That's interesting. Now, is your house a real old house? I mean,
I can't hear too good.
oh, I'm sorry. Is your house an old house?
It's old. It's old.
Uh-huh. Do you think that anyone has passed away there in past years?
But I can't hear again.
Oh, do you think anyone might have passed away in your house like years and years ago?
It's possible. It's possible. And then somebody, we live close to cemeteries, and then somebody said we might be living on an Indian burial ground.
Oh, wow, that's very interesting. But they don't seem to be doing you any harm or anything. They just...
Oh, no harm at all. And it's just like, well, see, they've disappeared now. They was only here for maybe a year and a half, it seemed like, when I was taking pictures, and then they disappeared. But we do have, I got a mirror, and I've had for years, and it came from Florida. It's a different kind of mirror. And one day I was taking a picture of my husband and our cat, and the mirror was in the picture. So when we got the picture back, in the mirror there's a faint image of an old man.
Really? Oh my goodness. Have you done any kind of investigation who owned the house before you or anything?
Excuse me?
Have you done any kind of investigation as to who might have lived in the house before you?
Well, we've had different ones that's lived here. It's been, different families. There's been different families. Mm-hmm. But the mirror, it had came from Florida, and this man had bought it. Well, then I bought it from him, and it's an old mirror. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if the spirit has come, the spirit in the mirror had come from, like, Florida, or...
Well, you know, that's quite interesting. I had written a story. There was a magician back in the 1600s in Italy, and his name was Count Cagliostro. And he had stolen a necklace, and he was in a lot of trouble. And as I said, he was a magician, and he vowed that he would not be caught, and that he would live in his mirror, in this fantastically huge mirror. And he claimed he was able to actually live in that mirror. His spirit would be in that mirror.
When was that?
His name, it was in Italy in the 1600s, and his name was Count Cagliostro. It's Cagliostra. And you can look him up. He's actually in the history books, and he was very into this. And there's a lot of cultures, especially in New Guinea, they feel that if you take a picture or if you look in a mirror, that is your spirit. It's going to take the spirit out of you. And so I wouldn't be surprised if something or some essence that had some kind of connection with that mirror somehow, got entangled in there. Yeah.
Excuse me, I can't hear again.
I'm sorry?
What did you say about the mirror?
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me that some kind of spirit or essence was able to transpose itself into that mirror, its energy into that mirror, and that's possibly why when you took the picture you were able to get a glimpse.
Well, see, we had no problem with the mirror, and one day I cleaned the mirror, and I cleaned it with vinegar, and after that I saw it was like fingernail scratches down, and I thought, oh, from now on I'm dusting. The spirit doesn't care for that too much, but there hasn't been any. It's not like with the orbs and with spirit in the mirror. There hasn't been any things that's disaster or anything. But the orbs came after we had an experience, and it would be with a practicing witch of all things.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Which we didn't know that when that person was here, of course. But then the orbs came, and it would be, but they won't go around me or the one dog. I was wondering about that.
Gee, I don't know about why one dog or not you. I don't know, unless the other animals seem to they seem to recall them in a past life or something. That they were similar, and the other dog and you bear no resemblance, so they don't have any connection with you.
Yeah, the one dog that it doesn't go, wouldn't go around. She has a very strong personality.
Mhm.
Very strong.
Well, they're
domineering, really.
I was going to say they probably don't want to mess with her.
No, nobody does.
Oh, that's great. That's very interesting. Have you told your friends about these experiences?
Excuse me?
Have you told any of your friends about these experiences?
Oh, yes. Our one friend, I told her about it, and I said the orbs haven't been in any more pictures, and she said they won't be now. They're gone. But there was this one orb. It was a big one, and then, like with the when I took the picture of the dogs, that was did on Easter morning. Mm-hmm. And these orbs, there was all sizes, little tiny ones, and then this big one, and then there's middle-sized ones.
I hate to cut you off, caller, but we need to step aside for a break.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for calling.
Okay, thank you.
Bye now.
We'll be back right after this.
Davis & Davis have been helping people with their legal matters since 1976. Voted Pennsylvania's super lawyers, they provide hometown service, professional advice with a personalized touch, no matter what legal problem you may experience.
Hi, I'm Gary Frankhauser. Purchasing a home or other real estate will probably be the largest investment one will make throughout their life. These transactions involve many details, including negotiation of the deal, the preparation of an agreement and other documents, obtaining necessary financing, any inspections required, as well as the review of all public records to be sure there are no problems with the title to the property being acquired. We at Davis & Davis have vast experience in these types.
And anyone who's listening who has their own unique experience, a place they've stayed that's been haunted, I would encourage you to call either at 724-438-4593 or the toll-free number at 1-866-590-9627. As we were on break, I was thinking about another particular interesting experience I had. I had written a story for the New York Times, the Jersey Weekly section, about two women from Cape May, New Jersey, who collected Victorian costumes. And they would travel all over England and collect these costumes and had them in a warehouse and would bring them out every year in December when the town of Cape May would host its annual Charles Dickens extravaganza. And they would have different people who would come in costumes from all over the country, and they would reenact some of Dickens' works, and they would have a fabulous Dickensian feast. And one of these women was named Sandy Miller. And I went down to cover this story and went to the hotel which she and her late husband owned. And this was the Windward House in Cape May. And the inn is spectacular. The doors to the Windward House are just magnificent. Massive planks of oak and chestnut frame, meticulously crafted beveled and stained glass panels. It's really a spectacular old inn. And it was particularly interesting when she told us that a ghost seems to haunt this particular inn. And she and her husband really were, at the time, were really very open to this ghost. And the public rooms of the inn, which is located on Jackson Street in Cape May, are sort of almost like a museum because they had all kinds of collections, like, as I mentioned before, the Edwardian and Victorian costumes. They had little Victorian egg cups and vintage furniture and accessories. And each of the guest rooms had its own name and theme. And most were air-conditioned. Now I believe all of them are. But if the guests are to be to believe, one former resident of that inn chooses to stay in the house for eternity. Now, in historical circles, this was known as the George Baum House. and it was erected as a summer home for a Philadelphia lawyer back in 1905. It later, in the 1940s, became a rooming house, and now, of course, it's an inn. And the rooms of question are on the third floor of the house, which were once servants' quarters, where they had a staff of Irish immigrant women. And the Windward House is probably, the ghost is probably on that third floor. And those who claim to have seen the ghost cite that that's where it happens, and that it's not a frightening experience, but it is a definite, strong presence. And the first time they had noticed anything, that a visitor said something, was back in 1978. And there was a gentleman who was staying for the summer because he was in graduate school, and he was taking a course in English. And he stayed for the first time all of the month of July, and then he was so fascinated he came back and stayed later again for the month of August. And at that time, Sandy Miller said that he requested the same room, which surprised them because it was not the most popular room. For the first reason, it was on the third floor, and it had a shared bath, and it was not on the ocean side of the house, so you didn't get a lot of breeze. In fact, just the opposite, it was very hot. But he still wanted that room. And as I said, since then it's been redecorated and air-conditioned. But at the time, this particular gentleman said that when he was leaving, he says, "I have to tell you something. I'm writing a paper for a graduate course, and I'm going to include a story about your house because it is haunted." And he claimed that it was a female presence. He didn't sense anything threatening. He didn't actually see her, but there was a very heavy, like a mist in the air, that he was able to sense. And, he was not afraid, and of course, word got out, and a lot of people wanted to stay in the haunted room. And about 2 years later, nobody had mentioned this to this one particular woman who decided to stay there. And she came down one morning, and she said she had stayed in that room, and she sensed a presence as well. And there was a sensation that there was something in the room that was definitely female and an unthreatening spirit. And she felt as though the woman were there, or the presence was there looking for something. And that woman left, and another woman a guest came to stay there, and she mentioned the exact same experience. So now the room has been kind of divided, and it's actually 2 rooms and a bathroom. But people still come to stay there and feel that it is definitely a haunted room. And one more report came, which was more recent, and this included that a woman said she had walked into the room, and actually for the first time someone reported seeing the ghost sitting on the bed. And she just looked at the other woman and vanished. So another interesting place to stay, the Windward House in Cape May. Again, if any of you have stayed anywhere of interest, please give us a call now at 724-438-4593 or at 866-590-9627. Haunted hotels are always an interest to a lot of people, except sometimes when they get a little more than they're bargained for. So,
Like I said, anybody that stays in one of those things has got a lot of courage.
oh, I hear you.
I'm an avid fan of horror films and thrillers, but when it comes to that type of stuff in reality, I couldn't deal with it.
It takes a little bit of courage, I think,
Right. Now, there's a local story from where I grew up about a boy that was riding his bike and fell down a cliff and got impaled by a stovepipe. And supposedly, if you say stovepipe 3 times, his ghost comes and haunts you.
Oh my God.
Kind of like a Candyman type story or Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
And it looks like we have a caller coming in. Hang on just 1 second.
Wonderful.
Okay, caller and Carlotta, do I have you both?
Yes,
Hey, Nick,
you
how
do.
you doing?
Pretty good.
Hey, Carlotta.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
I'm terrific.
Well, my name's John Robinson. I sometimes sit in like you're doing for the illustrious Jack Evans.
Oh, wonderful.
So I had the distinct pleasure of speaking with you. And he told me last night that I could come to New Jersey and spend time at the beach house anytime I wanted to. Isn't that nice of him?
That was really swell.
Well, I wanted to call in for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
Like I said, I spoke to Jack last night, and he wanted me just to let his audience know that on Thursday at Story Square in Uniontown, they're having, of course, their summer series concert. And the benefit for the night is Unity, A Journey of Hope, which grants wishes to adults. So I just wanted to remind everybody to come on up and say hi to Bobby and I, and come up, buy some water, make a donation, and come get involved. That's like 5:30 to 7:30. And I also wanted to say I find that the radio show tonight is interesting because my wife and I actually belong to a paranormal investigation group.
Okay, wonderful.
And we do investigations, around the greater Pittsburgh area. We've been to Fort Mifflin. We've been to Moundsville. We have some plans on doing some other stuff, later on this fall, like maybe in Ohio. But it's just very intriguing to me, to be able to do stuff like this and get pictures and you get voices like the EVPs and such like that,
Yes, very much so.
It's very, very interesting. Now, I'm going to interview you by any chance.
That's
Do you have you written books on the paranormal?
I have written 3 books. My first book was Salem Pact, which is, of course, about the Salem witchcraft trials that I mentioned earlier in the show.
Good.
And then my second book was called Touching the Dead,
Uh-huh.
which is a collection of superstitions based on ethnic beliefs and legends.
Okay.
And finally, my third book, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow night, is
All right.
Vampire Resurrection, because vampires are the in thing now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's kind of the up and coming kind of genre, I think, that people are involved in.
Yeah.
Are you a medium, or do you do investigations, or do people submit stuff to you, or do you just report on what you've heard?
No, I've done some research as far as like the superstitions and things like that. Well, I've always had an interest in paranormal, but as far as the superstitions and things about witches and things, my father was a Czechoslovakian and Russian extract, and he would tell me a lot of stories. And then when I did a lot of traveling, I had written for the New York Times and the Bergen Record and some large newspapers, where I did some travel and experienced the same thing, that people in other cultures have either the same superstitions or similar. And I thought, wow, no one's really written about this. And rather than just listing these things as a nonfiction type genre, I take that superstition or that myth or that legend and create a story around it.
That's pretty cool.
Kind of illustrating it. Yeah, we'd love to talk with you another time.
That's interesting. That really is.
Thank you.
That's all right. And you are down in New Jersey as well?
Yes, I'm in New Jersey. I'm in northwestern New Jersey in a town called Chester.
All righty. All righty. Well, I just wanted to welcome you to the WMBS family.
Thank you so much.
And I heard that you were on there, and like I said, Jack told me just to call in to remind everybody to please come up to Story Square on Thursday night. And we're still listening to the radio, so callers call in, ask us some questions, and God bless you, and you have a good evening. Nice speaking with you.
Thank you. You too.
Good night.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Well,
Okay.
that was interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of the sound when people hang up that we get.
Yeah, a little bit of a click, unless it's a ghost. I don't know. Hopefully not. But so yeah, the shore is filled with. Oh dear. I think that confirms it. It reminds me. I had mentioned about when I had written this story for the New York Times about the ghost of the Windward House. I had also done a story. One of the first stories I ever wrote was about they have a ghost storytelling hour down in it's Whitesbog, the little town of Whitesbog, which is in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. And they have different storytellers, and they actually have an expedition where people go out and search for the Jersey Devil. And for those people who may not be familiar, he was the 13th child of a woman, and she was not thrilled about having him, and she made the announcement, oh, I hope this is, the devil's child. She was just so exacerbated by having this 13th child, and supposedly he was born with a tail and horns and everything, and he fled, and he haunts the Jersey Pine Barrens. And every now and then you'll have people who will say there have been sightings of him. So there's all kinds of things wandering around there and going bump in the night.
I saw a film many years ago. Actually, this came out before the Blair Witch Project, where these film students went into the Pine Barrens and hunted for the New Jersey Devil, and then they got tore up, and it was kind of filmed like the Blair Witch Project, where the footage was really rough and stuff, and it was kind of like reality based.
Right.
And that's a very spooky film.
Well, that whole area is very spooky.
Right.
I know some of the stories they tell down by this lighthouse, the old Barnegat Lighthouse, Old Barney. And out there in October around Halloween, and it's chilly, and the winds come in off the coast. It's certainly a perfect atmosphere for adults listening to haunted stories.
Right. And it looks like we have another caller here.
Oh, great.
Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. This is Miss Holton.
Yes.
I have read your books, and I'm especially intrigued by your short stories in Touching the Dead.
Oh, thank you. Do you have any?
I enjoy them very much. And I have had various experiences in my lifetime from when I was a child. Some have been seeing ghosts or spirits or mists, whatever you want to call them. But I did have an experience traveling when I went, I was in Charleston, North Carolina, in about 5 years ago, and we stayed in this. I don't know if I should mention the hotel name.
Well, was it a large chain or just a private?
No.
Okay, I think you can probably.
Yeah, go ahead and mention it.
Oh, it was the Lodge Alley Inn, and one part of the hotel, well, most 3/4 of the hotel is rather old, and I think they are warehouses, brick warehouses that have been refurbished and made into timeshares, and which were quite lovely, quite modern, and it was with a big courtyard in the middle with a fountain and lights, and it was quite unique and quite nice. But I was there with my husband, who does not believe in things that go bump in the night, So but when he was not there and I was there alone, it's not that I saw anything, but I felt a presence, and it was very unnerving to me. I did not care to stay there
You think it was
by
threatening?
myself
You think it was
because I had just the overwhelming feeling of anxiety and kind of fearful. Not that whatever it was would hurt me, but just that it was malevolent, And I enjoyed my time there, but just not when I was alone. So, but that was one of my travel stories that would include a ghost or spirits or a haunting, I suppose. My other experiences are more when I actually saw specters or ghosts. But since you're dealing with travel, I thought I would give you a call and tell you about Charleston,
Well,
which
thank
is
you so
indeed a
much.
very, very old city.
Oh, yes, yes. Lots of things going on down there. Well,
And
thank you
full
so
of
much.
southern apparitions and ghost tours. And I did go on the ghost tour, but I did not see any ghosts. But I do want to say I really enjoy your books, and
thank you.
keep writing them.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you.
All right then. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Well, that was an interesting call.
Yes, I've been to the Charleston, North Carolina, South Carolina area, and it's such a lovely area.
Mm-hmm.
Many great barbecue restaurants down there.
Oh, well, it's interesting you mentioned restaurants because I've just heard of a restaurant up here in New Jersey that has a ghost in it, and I'm going to check that out within the next month or so. So I may have more to tell Jack the next time I speak with him.
Right. Which restaurant in New Jersey would that be?
It's called the Tewksbury Inn.
Tewksbury Inn, and where in New Jersey is that located?
In Tewksbury.
Tewksbury.
Also northwestern New Jersey.
Okay. I've been several places in New Jersey. I've been to Marlton, which is like close to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I've been up to Sayersville, and I went to the Starland Ballroom.
And did you see anything?
No.
Well, maybe they just weren't coming out that night.
Right.
You know, they're always, if they're there once, they're always there. It's just what brings them out and what doesn't. I think that's an interesting point that you see every time the show Ghost Hunters is on, whether they choose to manifest or communicate in any way. It just depends.
What I find neat is when they pick up audio of the ghosts when they record and ask them questions.
Yes, and sometimes the voices are really kind of freaky, and the words they say.
Right.
Very interesting. Very interesting. There's a lot of things out there that we don't know about, but I do think there is another plane that has some kind of existence on it, whether you want to call it ghosts or spirits or presences, but you know, particularly if there's a violence surrounding a death.
Yeah. One story from when I was younger, I was helping this couple move into their house. And I was helping them move, and I heard voices in the basement. I was standing in the basement, and I heard these voices, but there was nobody around in the basement.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's freaky.
It was like people talking and mumbling, but there was nobody in the house whatsoever, and the basement was empty.
Right. Well, when my son was dating one particular girl, as the family was moving from this very large house, and the mother had asked if my son would help move some of the items from the basement, and she had told them all the story that the whole time, one of the reasons they were actually moving was because their house was, they think it was inhabited by the spirit of a colonial soldier. And there was just like a presence that they felt, but there was also a very strange odor in the basement. And it would come through the house at certain parts of the day. And, you know, they were just very freaked out about it, and they eventually did move. But I asked my son when he was down there removing some of these items if he detected anything like that, and he said, no, I didn't smell anything or sense anything or see anything. So I think the other part of that is some people are more intuitive than others, are able to pick things up more so than others.
Well, this family had lived in the house for about a year, then they moved out because they thought they heard ghosts.
Yeah.
And my parents wouldn't believe me when I told them that I heard these voices.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was just a little kid, too.
Well, they say that a lot of children are able to detect spirits and the presence of different entities more readily than adults because they still have that innocence and that sensitivity, and they're more open.
Right.
You know, as we age, we all kind of become more cynical and are less apt to believe in it unless we're literally hit over the head by something.
And we have about 1 minute left here. Do you have any last words here?
Well, you know, this was really fun. I hope people got some ideas about ghosts and possible vacations. And just like to give a little plug for tomorrow night, I'm going to be talking about vampires. They are the hottest rage today in the movies and books everywhere. And we're going to talk about the different types of vampires because there's more than just that typical sanguine, blood-sucking vampire. There are other types of vampires. And the vampire, we're going to shatter some vampire myths because the vampire did not just pop up in the Slavic countries during the 17th and 18th century. It actually goes back much further, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow night.
All right. Thanks a lot, Carlotta. And Stilltown Mike will be talking to you tomorrow evening.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Good night now.
Night.
East Fayette Street. Get the Hyundai Advantage America's Best Warranty with 10-year, 100,000-mile protection, and now with a second location. Autoland Quality Check Pre-Owned Vehicles.